I was born in Rock Springs because Green River didn't have a hospital, a little railroad town. And we lived in a house that probably had about 800 square feet. This was still Depression time, 1937. In my high school years, my mother and father went to the temple, and that was a great religious experience for me. I was sealed with them. I ended up going to BYU, of course. Provo was nice. I had a 5-block walk from my house to go to the BYU. And I took the AFROTC with the thought that I might be a pilot in the Air Force after graduation, and then perhaps do commercial piloting. I just went in for 6 months, and then I went on my mission almost directly afterwards. I guess the best way to start is to say that Marion P. Hanks gave me my blessing before I went on a mission, set me apart. And he identified some problems that I had that would give me trouble in the mission field. And he didn't know anything about me, but he somehow told me that my personality was going to cause me some problems, but that if I conquered these problems could be solved, and that I would be an exceptional missionary. And when I came back from the mission, I had already decided I wanted to do one of two things: either become a college professor or a lawyer. My wonderful wife, who has been the best part of me all along, and I met her when she was 14 and I was 16.
Wow.
So we dated for 5 years, for a couple of years exclusively, and then with other people went on the mission. And I remember sitting at my farewell looking at her. She was a member of a sextet that sang at my farewell, and wondering whether she would be there when I got back, and hoping that she would. And she was. That was the big event in my life. She has been my biggest blessing. To my surprise, I was called to be bishop in 1976, and that was in the Oakland First Ward, which was an overwhelming task for me. I was at a very busy time in my professional career, had a very heavy caseload. Chuck, who had been born with severe disease, required a lot of time for both me and my wife. And the Oakland First Ward was very complex at that time. So I had in the Oakland First Ward Samoans, Tongans, Hispanics, Asians, a deaf group, and people who were poorly educated, people who were highly educated. And it was very hard to get people who spoke English as a second language, for example, to participate. They felt awkward in speaking before a well-educated English speaking congregation. Well, I was surprised when I was called as bishop. I was very surprised when I was called to be stake president. I was not. Some people have premonitions that those things are going to happen. I didn't. In either case, I thought I was too busy when I was called to be a bishop for anyone to call me. While I was bishop, we had a second child who had the fatal skin disease, and it took a lot of time to care for them. And so I really never expected to be a stake president. And I don't think the people who came to choose a stake president then thought so either. Obviously, when you receive a call like that, it feels good because it means that people have faith in your ability to do it and that the Lord wants you to do something. But at the same time, I just didn't know whether I could accomplish what needed to be done. Elder Cook, when he called me, told me that I would have to very quickly reorganized the stake. We had 17 units, 9 of which were branches, most of them English speaking. And it took us a long time by Salt Lake standards to put it together, about 3 months. Unfortunately, I was involved in the biggest rearrangement in a long while. There hasn't been one since. Only that I think that Oakland has had a long line of very impressive leaders. The stake presidents that came before and after me have been fabulous. I feel very happy to have been among them. Bishops, had a long history of wonderful bishops. Relief Society presidents, and both in the stake and the ward, and young men and young women leaders. We've just had generally a great program. I thought the thing that we most needed in our stake when I became stake president was to get people who were affluent, and we have a lot of them, to get involved in enough service that they realized that the great blessing was not in having money or means, but in serving the Lord. And after I became stake president, I found out that most of them already had that ethic. I got to know how much people did on their own to help the communities and to serve other people, not only within the church, but outside the church. So I was fortunate to be a stake president in the stake with a lot of very talented and generous people. And it still was daunting when I would drive across the stake. I would think, you're the stake president of this area, you have the priesthood authority that a stake president has over this great area. How come you are chosen? I often felt very inadequate, even though I had fabulous counselors and executive secretaries and clerks and leaders in auxiliaries and in the priesthood corps. It was still daunting. And I'm grateful for the church, because I think if I hadn't been called to different positions, I would not have met nearly as many people, been able to know and learn from so many people, serve so many people, and my life would have been much poorer. So I'm grateful for the church and the opportunity that it gives us. I think that this stake particularly has exposed me and my children to different cultures and nationalities and races, and so grateful that we've had this bounteous group of people to work together in making the stake a long and successful institution.